Okay, good morning, everybody. Everybody's well. Happy Friday. Hope you're doing great. Great to be with you again. What an incredible week. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you are. I just feel so honored that we're together. A little close to the screen today. Let me move back a drop. We're talking a lot about this concept of not being enough, of being at that wall. It's funny how this works. We call these, little divine interventions, how we've been talking about something for a while, and then all of a sudden it pops up in Jewish practice. Again, for whatever denomination or religion you're listening to it, we'll explain it out. Suk's Torah portion, actually, we're going to be talking about this today on Timeless Lessons, actually is very much tied into what we've been talking about for the past few weeks. Just in case we didn't think there was a source for this. Just in case you think this was you who stands at a wall and says, I'm not enough. This is how it goes. This is actually the most fundamental error that humans have been making since we received the Torah on Mount Sinai. This is the fundamental Jewish error. It applies to everybody. So in this week's Torah portion, there's the story of the Jewish people that are now traveling through the desert. And they get up into the banks of a land called Canaan, which is the modern day Israel. And God says, ready to roll? Doesn't say it like that, but that's how I interpret it. Ready to roll? And the Jews say, well, I don't know. We have to take a look. Understand, let's just use this in our language. Let's understand the stories of the spies that you may have heard of regardless of your religion or your background. The Jews are they're in the desert now. They're not at the border with binoculars, right? They're in the desert. Tents. There's a well and water everywhere. There's manna from heaven. There's clouds of glory, right? They're chilling. They're taking walks. They have it. They're learning Torah. I don't know what they're doing, but they're okay. They're protected, right? The clouds of glory surrounded them and protected them. It's 68 degrees. They're on a desert experience. They're in a hotel in the desert, antiquity style. They're on a Passover program. They're not at the border. So when God says, take over, go conquer Canaan, it's your land. I'm giving it to you. I'm God around this place. Their initial reaction was, whoa, let's check this out. Let's go to the wall, right? Let's use our language a little bit. Let's go to the wall. Let's get close to the wall. Now, this is where, for those who've been paying attention, this is literally what we've been talking about. Doer, commentator. Remember what we spoke yesterday? Doer, commentator. These guys roll into Israel to check it out. And they come back and they say, all right, we're going to die. Yeah, there's no chance. There's giants and there's cities that are fortified and there's these massive fruit. Look at this place. It's ridiculous. It's we're like a bunch of Jews. You know what I'm saying? We can't get on the field with these people. We're going to get rocked. Imagine pulling a bunch of kids out of yeshiva and playing football against a real football team. Are you kidding me? Sack, concussion, next quarterback. There's no chance. And the entire nation listens to these guys and basically listens to these holy people and cries that it's over. We're never going to go in. Now, if you remember what we're talking about, there's two layers of this that actually is taking place in the story of the Jewish people. That is one of the most fundamental stories in our entire history, because we are told and taught that it's this story and this sin that is the reason why we are still not, so to speak, living in the time of redemption. It's the source of all of our problems. I'm not making this stuff up. This is straight out. The next few holidays that are coming down the pike, I hope not, are fast days. That's what's next. Coming up next are fast days to commemorate ultimately this particular sin. This was the story that is at the source of the fast days. Like, this is the problem. Someone emailed me last week and said, I feel like everything we've done on the boost has been a lead up to this. And I'm like, maybe, yeah, I think you're right. This is it. This is the core. We're now, in the center of the world. And the Jews are faced with this incredible wall called conquering the land of Canaan. And they send in commentators to come back and give a report. The report's the booth, right? It's the booth. We're going to die. There's no way. Look at the instant replay. We're slaves. We don't know how to fight wars. We've never been trained. We're weak people. We don't know how to do stuff. There are giants in there. Like, you guys out of your mind? There are giants in there, like real dudes. Not just giants from like a, Jewish standpoint, like, 6'4", like an actual giant. Like, are you out of your minds? It was hanging to go. And the Jews listen to the booth and they start to cry. Remember, the booth only knows the past. So who we were is who we are. We were a bunch of slaves. And so that's who we are. We can't build an army. We can't conquer a land. We can't establish our own world. We have to be slaves. And so if the slavery is to Pharaoh, then fine. If the slavery is to this God fine. But like, we can't take charge. We can't be independent. Not, God forbid, from God, but with God. We're not partners in this. We're slaves. We're not partners. We're employees. That's the commentary. That's the commentary. You hear? That's the booth. Because the booth only has the past. The booth doesn't have the future. The booth doesn't even have the present. If you really analyze what takes place in a sports broadcasting booth, they don't even have the present because they're always a second past the present. They're commentating on that which just happened. Oh my God, did you see that play? He steps back to pass. It's a second after he actually steps back to pass. He threw it over the middle. It's a second after the ball leaves his hand. They have no choice. They're not in the game. They're always trailing for at least a microsecond. The booth, the commentary that flows into our head is always the past. That's how it gets commentary. It's commenting on that which happened. And the Jews walk in and see something that's brand new, a challenge they've never encountered before, a challenge they've never had to face before. And all they have to rely on is the past. And they say, there's no chance. We're out. It ain't going to work. Why? So let's go deeper. And you're going to see this with God's help. Watch this. In their report, they say the following line, which we'll talk about on the Timeless Lessons today, with God's help. It says, if you look in the actual story, for those who have the Bible, the Chumash, whatever you can read, it really pays today, tomorrow, if you can, wherever you are, whether you keep Shabbat or not, whether you're Jewish or not, if you have a copy, it pays, especially this weekend when this is our portion, to look at the words, Hebrew, English, whatever, and read their report. It's unbelievable. Because I got to tell you something. Their report is our report every single day. The report that they said back in those days, basically, is just a transcript of what goes on in our minds every day. It's just different examples. It's the same report. It's the same report. The land is great. You always start off with like, yeah, that'd be amazing if, but there's always a huge but in there. They're giants. Fortified walls. It's too hard. Can't do it. Too hard, right? I'd love to. Think of your own reports. I'd love to be this spouse, friend. I'd love to start this thing. I'd love to learn this new thing. I'd love to move to this new thing. I'd love to. But it's too hard. The walls are too hard. There are giants against me. No? Is that not our report? If you read to the end of their report, to the end, you find something fascinating. You ready for this? If it's so obvious that you can miss it. It says, V'nihi be'einenu kechagav. Like, by the way, they say, we were in our eyes, for my Israelis and for people that speak Hebrew, you're with me, V'nihi be'einenu kechagavim, like grasshoppers. V'chein hayu be'einehem, and so we were in theirs. Listen to these words slowly, because this is it. We were in our eyes like grasshoppers, and so we were in theirs. We don't know what they think of us. We were in our eyes like grasshoppers. I felt not enough. So we were in theirs. So I must not be enough. The reason why I am threatened by you when you said good morning, or when you asked me a question, was because I am in my eyes not enough. So then it must be in your eyes I'm not enough. The reason why I'm so offended by you, or I'm so threatened by you, or I'm so frustrated by you, or I'm so mad at you, is because I don't feel like I'm enough. So I'm projecting that insecurity on you and how you feel towards me. They didn't take a poll to the giants as to whether these spies were enough. They were spies. The whole goal of a spy is to not be recognized. So they didn't know what they thought of him, because it would be weird to be like, hey, by the way, we're the country that's going to conquer you. Like, you think like we're like enough? No, I feel like I'm not enough. Isn't that what we've been talking about? I am not blank enough. I walk into this new promised land in which God himself, who I just was able to take a revelation in. We're not talking about slaves that were sitting for 210 in radio silence, and then this happened. We're talking about slaves that are eating manna every single day. We're talking about a nation that lives in the clouds of glory, that sees miracles every second. We're talking about a nation that stood at a mountaintop and had a revelation of God. It's not me and you who learn about it, who see God in the nuance, who work to grapple with the creation and the creator, who live our lives with belief, seeing God in the shadows, trying to find. We're talking about if me and you would have literally had a revelation of God, mass revelation, not I slept, I woke up and I'm like, oh my gosh, there was God. I'm talking about me, you, and all of our friends came out of this mountain and been like, did you see that? Yeah, I did. Holy cow, was that God? Yeah, it was God. Holy cow, we just saw God. That's what happened. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're talking about. It means that in the morning, we wake up and go down the block. We don't go to the cabinet and it says Kellogg's. We don't go to work and the boss hands us a check. And we go, of course it comes from God. That's what we grow with. We're talking about they wake up in the morning and they go down the sand dune road and they see a portion of manna. And they go home, and at night they try to save a little bit, and then it rots. And it's Friday morning. We're not just waiting for the Friday morning. I've got to go commute. With Friday morning, they get double. We're talking about they're living and breathing in the miracles of God. And God's like, you got this. God is like, you got this. Yeah, me, the guy who's feeding you. If I didn't think you got this, I would just stop sending you manna for 2 days and you would die. If I wanted you to get killed, like, I'm God. You're in the desert. There's a lot of easier mechanisms that I can use. Like, I don't know, booking out for a week. Try keeping a nation alive in the desert without me for a week. I could take a vacay. When I come back, you'd be dead. If I needed to pull a game, I didn't have to have you go into a nation and get killed in battle. I'm God. You could do this. No, we can't, God. I'm not enough. That's what happened. I mean, of course, these are holy people. I'm a nobody. This is the generation that saw the world. I'm just telling you, I'm talking about people. I'm talking about words on a page. I'm not, God forbid, commenting on human beings. They're beyond what I could ever have dreamed to be. And of course, every layer of those souls are deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm just giving you one surface interpretation of it. And the reason why it is memorialized, I believe, in Torah is because it applies to us every single day. Every day we wake up in the morning and God's like, yeah, I got you. Yeah, that soul. The reason why your eyes are open is because of your soul, my friends. I gave that to you. I gave that to you. And if I wanted to knock you out, I'd knock you out. Yeah, the whole thing, like breathing and walk, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Safety, security, yeah, the stuff you have that you didn't realize you had before you left the house this morning, all of that, that's me. I gave that to you. And if we learned one thing over the past year, God's like, I can take that away. And no one can stop me. Yeah, I know you think, but you're wrong. The world is really paralyzed. The world's really less competent than you think. Smart people, God bless them. I'm with them, I'm telling you. Every day I give you a promised land to conquer. Every day you got promised lands to conquer. It could be your own temptations. It can be how you treat people. It can be work, school, home, wherever. Every day you stand at the banks of the next stage of your promised land. And you know it because you know you want it, but the giants are big. And you go in and you say, I'm a grasshopper. I'm not enough. This is the wall we've been talking about. It's right in the core book. They saw a wall. They said, I'm not strong enough, smart enough, resilient enough. We're not enough. I'd rather live with the pain of who I was than go through the pain of the unknown. Is that not the story of the spies? Is that not the story of our lives? Is it not what we've been knocking at? Period. And God says, yeah, I got that. Here's how it's going to work, my friends. How about you stop thinking for 10 seconds? Can you do that? Do you mind? Like, do you mind if I don't know, you trust me? Just, can you shut down the commentators? Can you just mute those guys for a couple seconds? Is that cool? Just go in. Just go. And you see the one man that stood up. A man named Caleb. Kalev. He was the descendant of Judah. The antecedent, if that's the right word. Or the predecessor, no, anti's after. The predecessor of the kings. He got up and you know what his answer to the spies were? I'll say it in Hebrew and we'll close with this. Bo na'alev v'nirashno. So let's go do this. Ki yachal nuchala. Because we can. Because we can. I'm not arguing on the commentary. You're staring at a board. Now it's time to do. You can do this. Put your hand through the board. Make that phone call. Stop listening to the commentary. It's a story of our spies, story of our people. It's a story of our people. Since the beginning, it's a story of our redemption and destruction. It's a story of our lives. That's the beauty of Torah, by the way. It looks like it happened a long time ago. If you're reading it, it's because it's happening every day. Story of our lives. If we're reading it, it means we have a power that's available now that comes into this world. Let's use this Shabbat, this weekend, regardless of your background. Let's go. Let's go. Stop listening to that commentary. Let's go. Let's do. Find your promised land this weekend. Do something. Go take the hill. This isn't going to happen. But smarts. But when we start knowing when to turn into our doers and start believing there's something inside us, we end up pushing forward and conquering the promised land. All right, we'll talk about this. It's something that's been on my head to talk about, that I want to talk about with God's help next week. This idea of not enjoying the wins. We'll get there. Until then, have a wonderful weekend. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom. Remember that we're still dealing with the sins of the spies. Maybe we can be the generation, although they were the greatest. I'm not judging them personally, just judging the words on the page. Maybe we can be the ones, the generation that fulfills and fixes that sin. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. With God's help, I cannot wait to see you again next week. Have a great weekend.